As with any other niche on YouTube or social media in general, BookTube offers a flourishing community rife with like-minded peers and varying perspectives. BookTube is a place, like its sister BookTok, where bookworms can come together and discuss what matters to them, namely books, and everything from authors to the act of reading which relates to them. That said, BookTube isn't without its problems, and if you're planning on starting a BookTube channel, or already have a channel and are looking for someone to commiserate with, I'm going to cover the potential pitfalls of diving into this niche. All communities on YouTube come with their own issues, unique to the topic or YouTube itself, but these 6 problems are specific to BookTube. The first pitfall when beginning a BookTube channel is the pressure to read what's popular. This isn't wholly unique to BookTube, as all niches come with their trends, but how it presents is. Chances are you started your channel because you wanted to enthuse about the books, authors, and stories which spoke to you. However, after you uploaded that review gushing about how great Jane Austen was, your video received 3 views. Meanwhile, videos covering everything from the works of Colleen Hoover to those penned by Brandon Sanderson receive tens of thousands of views. And as you went through the books being reviewed, you found the same novels coming up: Mistborn, The Wheel of Time, Verity, and so on. Hoping to drum up views, you may be tempted to read one of these popular books, but I discourage this. If the book is within your preferred niche, or the premise genuinely grabs you, then great! Read it as soon as you can. If, though, you're just reading the book because you think that's what your viewers want, this is a bad idea. For starters, the book might not fit within your niche, or within the niche you're naturally drawn to. If you typically read a lot of fantasy and science fiction, and you decide to read Verity because it's trendy, one of 2 things can happen. 1, the video does poorly. This will occur first and foremost because you lack passion for what you're talking about, something your viewers could pick up on. Furthermore, the viewers you have gathered thus far, who have come to you for fantasy recommendations, likely won't be interested. Finally, you'll be stuck reading a book you weren't interested in to begin with, which, in my opinion, defeats the purpose of starting a channel. A BookTube channel should be one driven by passion. And, as noted earlier, you probably started your channel so that you could discuss the books you care about. Now, there's a second scenario. Your video on Verity does well, and you rake in the views and subscribers. Initially, this will feel like cause for celebration, but this could hurt you in the long run. If the majority of your new subscribers are only interested in Colleen Hoover, but you want to talk about fantasy or share book hauls, this could be a problem. If you love Colleen Hoover, awesome. But if you made a video dedicated to one of her books just to people please, then you're setting yourself up for a loop. Desperate to chase those numbers, you might feel obligated to continue reading Hoover's books as well as those within her niche, even if the original aim of your channel was to analyze classic literature or share your knowledge of Tolkien. Eventually, you'll feel trapped and obligated to create solely for others, with the long-term results being resentment and burnout. Unless a popular book happens to be in your niche, or is a book you're actually excited to read, I'd avoid it. Not only do you lose originality by copying everybody else, but if you take time away from the books you do want to read and place yourself in a box that may not align with your passions, you're not going to be happy. The second problem is that you commodify a hobby. It goes without saying that you started this channel because you love reading and want to connect with other bookworms. Overall, this is a positive experience, but there's one issue. Turning your hobby into a job can kill the enthusiasm you had for the hobby in the first place. This problem doesn't just affect BookTube, as artists can also lose their spark when forced to pump out a painting every week. But reading is even more private than that. In some ways, more personal. Even artists who don't post might share their work with their families or display it on their wall. But the act of reading is extremely private at its core. While you can recommend books to others or read with a friend, it's not likely you'll hold a conversation with someone while you're reading. As you read, immersing yourself in the author's world and falling in love with the characters, you're supposed to lose yourself. More than any other hobby except writing, reading forces you to disconnect from all else, and having a social media account can interfere with that. As mentioned in my last point, sharing your love of reading online can leave you feeling pressured to read what everybody else is reading, even if it isn't to your taste. But there are other problems with turning your hobby into a job, not the least of which is burnout. Many booktubers simply quit without so much as a goodbye video because the demanding schedule, in addition to exhausting them, ruins the pleasure of reading itself. Now, you can push yourself through other hobbies to an extent, but if you're not engaged or focused while you're reading, then you're really missing the point. Reading is supposed to be the quintessential method for relaxing and shutting out the world, but turning it into a grind can ruin that. Next, we have to face unwanted opinions about our tastes. This might not be a deal breaker, but taken together with everything else, it can wear you down. If your channel becomes big enough, the eventual hate comment is inevitable. Assholes are a dime a dozen these days, and even well-intentioned comments can be hurtful. On BookTube, though, you'll ideally be discussing the books you loved. You might discuss a book you hated on occasion too, but I'd recommend you concentrate on the books that you enjoyed. I won't say people won't eat up the negativity if you give into it, because science has already proven that human beings are attracted to it. But I personally find it off-putting. That's why if you try to keep things positive, other people will try to inject their negativity instead, along with their unwanted opinions. This is par for the course on the internet, but if you're in the BookTube community, those opinions might be directed towards the types of books you like to read. If you're a 30-year-old who reads a lot of YA novels, you might get people accusing you of being childish. If you love romance, some might call you an idealist or suggest you lack intelligence because you won't engage with serious books. As someone who's a fan of Twilight, I'm already opening myself up to ridicule. I've received my share of comments disparaging my tastes. And while it's not as hurtful as someone commenting on my looks, it can still be frustrating. Even talking about a popular book isn't safe, as there will be plenty who will hate on the book because it's popular. On BookTok, I asked my viewers why Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City series wasn't as widely talked about as her other books, because I was genuinely curious. And in response, I received one comment. Some person telling me that Sarah J. Maas was problematic, which didn't really answer my question to begin with. Now, for those who don't know, Sarah J. Maas is treated like the next coming of Christ on BookTok. It should have been easy for me to find fellow fans, but instead I attracted the attention of the one person who hated her. Don't get me wrong, you're allowed to like or dislike whichever books you want, but leaving comments on a Twilight video like, "Twilight sucks," doesn't add to the discussion in any meaningful way. Instead, it just makes you look like an idiot. If you don't like Twilight, maybe just don't watch my Twilight videos. Again, it's not a big deal, but it is annoying, and if my channel grows, I can expect these kinds of opinions on how shitty my reading tastes are to multiply. Something, it goes without saying, that can be detrimental to your reading experience. Fourth, there's the issue of being typecast. This problem is most universal to YouTube and social media as a whole, being a massive problem for creators across niches. If you make a certain type of content to excess, or one of your specific videos takes off, you run the risk of boxing yourself in, or as they call it in Hollywood, being typecast. You'd think talking about books would be pretty self-explanatory, but there are a lot of sub-niches, and a quick search through BookTube will reveal the sheer variety of content. A teenager griping about Verity is probably going to cover different content from a 30-year-old man listing his top fantasy recommendations. And a channel that throws in Harry Potter explained videos or writing advice are their own can of worms. For my part, I've been typecast as the girl who likes Twilight. Initially, I didn't worry about this. My thought process was that if someone clicked on my video wanting to hear about Twilight, they'd want to hear me talk about books too, because they must be bookworms, right? However, I forget that other people don't read as excessively as I do. While it might be normal for me to read 80 to 100 books in a year, others are happy if they only read 5, which means the books they're interested in could be very specific. They might love reading Harry Potter or Twilight, but it doesn't stand to follow that they'll necessarily enjoy reading anything else. Or if they do, it would be very specific books, like those within the YA or vampire romance genres. The video that exploded on this channel was my video explaining how Twilight's vampires worked. This video has hit the 10,000 mark. However, my video detailing how to get free books only netted around 50 views. You'd think a video on a channel dedicated to bookworms sharing how to get free shit would excel, but this wasn't the case. After all, if Twilight is the only book you read, or you only watch the films, you're not going to give a rat's ass about getting more books. As it stands, I don't regret making Twilight videos, as it's a topic I'm still passionate about. But when it comes to the following I hope to build around other book-related topics, this channel is still very much in its infancy. In trying to talk about books more broadly, this channel is where it was a year ago, when my Twilight video took off and more than doubled my subscriber count. The result is that I feel pressured to make more Twilight content than I'd necessarily like to, while having to put the topics I'm more excited about on the back burner, a common reason for why creators quit BookTube. One of the worst problems can be the drama. You'd think reading would be a fairly wholesome niche, but no community on the internet is immune to toxicity, and books have been the subject of bans, controversy, and dissent, long before classics like Fahrenheit 451 came out. Drama is expected in any online community, but the dramas we face in the BookTube community are pathetic at best and dangerous at worst. On the pathetic end of the scale, you have girls obsessed with book boyfriends harassing the family of a hockey player because they equated him with one of their fictional fantasies. Or you have the Zach controversy, where a bunch of women lost their shit because a good-looking guy wanted to start a BookTok account. Frankly, it's embarrassing when you look at some of the shit this community has engaged in. I've heard of people getting into fist fights at conventions, and tagging features make it all too easy to let someone you hate know exactly what you think of them. Even where the BookTube and AuthorTube circles overlap, you'll hear of writers fighting with those who leave negative reviews. On a dangerous level, it's become acceptable to threaten the lives of authors or readers we don't like, doing everything from describing how we'll kill them to passing out their addresses. The consequence has been that people have gotten hurt in real life. You only need to look up what happened to Salman Rushdie to see what I'm talking about. You don't have to like a writer or agree with what they have to say. But do we really have to tell people that murder is bad? Worse, by doxing someone, you dox their families too, potentially endangering spouses or children who have nothing to do with the controversy. As a booktuber, the drama in itself can be mentally exhausting, even if you're not at the center of one. Seeing so much hate and vitriol online can make you depressed, and even cause you to question the community you were so proud to join. I'm of the mind that the majority of us here aren't like that. We just want to read books and share our love with other bookworms. But the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and when you're online every day, it can be easy to feel that this is no longer a safe space for authors or the bookworms who want to consume their books. Coming to the sixth point, it's a lot of work to run a BookTube channel. Many opt for a simple talk to the camera style, but that doesn't mean running our channel is effortless. If you look at my earlier videos, you'll see I spent a lot of time editing. I spent hours collecting photos and videos, altering them, and then placing them in the editor, where further manipulation was often necessary. Even in cases where editing is minimal, creators still have to come up with ideas, write the script, and then film it. Moreover, many booktubers end up feeling the need to post 2 or 3 times a week, just so we can grow at the same rate as channels in more popular niches. BookTube and AuthorTube are never going to be popular niches the way sports or self-help are. If you look at the biggest BookTube videos, many are excelling, but none of them are making 1 million views. If that wasn't enough, booktubers don't have the same RPM, which means our videos might only make $1 where a video on a popular topic makes 20. Taking the lessened views and smaller payouts together, and the result is that we need to do 4 times the amount of work for a half, maybe a quarter of the reward, assuming we get any at all. In a popular niche, you might be monetized within a few months, but on BookTube, it could be years before you're allowed to earn so much as $1. This means in order to grow a BookTube channel, you'll be expected to put in years of free labor. Now, you should never start a YouTube channel just to make money, because as with any creative endeavor, it's going to take a long time for people to embrace you. If money is all you're after, you'd be better off choosing the 9-to-5 like everybody else. Still, putting as much as 50 hours into content creation for half a decade or more without earning any income can be very impractical. For most, it isn't feasible. If you have a day job or an infant to care for, you probably don't have that kind of time. If your channel makes money, then you can keep doing it because you don't have to work that second job or sacrifice your baby's future college tuition. However, as the responsibilities mount and no income appears, many booktubers are forced to quit, even if they don't want to. This is to say nothing of how discouraging it is to put that much work into something without receiving even $5 in return. None of us expect to be rich, But making even $50 a month while not providing a living wage can go a long way towards making someone feel appreciated, a feeling in itself which can alleviate burnout. If you told a teacher that they had to stop taking home a paycheck at the end of every month because they loved their job, they'd quit. In fact, many of the most passionate teachers have quit due to incomes which can no longer afford them a comfortable living. We have this idea that artists should work for free, which can be very discouraging to say the least, because it sends the message that our work doesn't count, that because it comes from a place of passion, it has no value. Creators should be paid, but YouTube is set up in a way that only the most popular creators are paid, sending the message that the work of those under 1,000 subscribers is worthless, and that if we aren't popular, our time isn't valuable. Even if I do get a viral video, I won't earn so much as $1 from it. And that's a real slap in the face, especially if you're someone with a family who genuinely needs that money more than you want it. This grind has hit booktubers all the harder, for the reasons I've listed before, forcing many to quit before they had a chance. All in all, BookTube can be positive, and in a future video, I'd like to discuss the benefits of starting a channel. But if you're thinking of starting a BookTube channel, or you're struggling to maintain one you already have, it's important to consider the ramifications. Having a BookTube channel can be rewarding. It can also open you up to toxicity, consume your time, and even take time away from the reason you started the channel in the first place: reading books. Between running a channel and life's demands, it can be hard to find the time to read at all. But if you're wanting to read more, or read faster in the time you have, I address that in the video on the left. Thanks for watching, and happy reading!